What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because today we're taking a deep, luxurious, and nostalgic dive into one of the most distinctive American Grand Tours of the early 60s, the 1962 Studebaker Gran Turismo Hawk. Now, before we even fire up that chrome-trimmed V8, let's take a step back. It's 1962, America's automotive golden age. Detroit's Big Three are churning out horsepower, fins, and chrome like it's a national competition. But in the background, over in South Bend, Indiana, a much smaller, scrappier company named Studebaker is trying to stay alive and relevant in a rapidly changing industry. Studebaker had always been a little bit different. They built wagons before they built cars. They designed ahead of their time. They didn't just follow trends, they bent them. But by the early 60s, sales were slipping. The competition was fierce, and Studebaker needed a car that would make people stop, stare, and dream again. Enter the Gran Turismo Hawk. This wasn't just another model in the lineup. This was Studebaker's statement piece. A rolling declaration that style, class, and performance didn't have to come from Detroit or Italy. It could come from South Bend. Designed by the legendary Brooks Stevens, a man whose fingerprints are all over American industrial design. The GT Hawk was a masterclass in elegance and restraint. Brooks Stevens looked at the outgoing Hawk body and saw potential. He took what was essentially a design dating back to the mid-1950s and transformed it into something that looked modern, sophisticated, and European. Gone were the tail fins and heavy ornamentation. In their place, crisp lines, a squared-off roofline inspired by the contemporary Thunderbird, and a front end that looked like it belonged in an Italian grand touring coupe. This wasn't just a facelift, it was a rebirth. Walk around a 62 GT Hawk and you immediately notice how balanced the proportions are. The long hood, the short rear deck, the clean belt line. The car exudes confidence, not in an over-the-top muscle car way, but in a way that says, I belong on the Riviera as much as I do on Route 66. Under the hood, the Gran Turismo Hawk was no slouch. The base engine was a 289 cubic inch V8 producing 210 horsepower, paired with a smooth, shifting Flight-O-Matic transmission or 4-speed manual for those who like to row their own gears. And for those seeking more punch, Studebaker offered performance options that pushed output closer to 2 to 40 horsepower. Now, let's talk about the interior, because this is where the GT Hawk truly elevated itself. Open the door, and you're greeted by a cabin that looks more like an aircraft cockpit than a 1960s car. The dash was sweeping, symmetrical, and beautifully detailed. The instrument cluster featured circular gauges set into a metallic panel with switches and knobs that felt solid and expensive. Every line inside the car was purposeful. It wasn't just designed to impress, it was designed to drive. And that's the thing, the GT Hawk didn't just look like a Grand Tour. It drove like one. Thanks to its independent front suspension and a solid rear axle, the handling was composed and predictable. Studebaker engineers worked to refine the ride, giving it a balance between comfort and road feel. On long stretches of highway, it felt effortless, smooth, and serene. But when you pushed it through corners, it responded with surprising agility for its size. You have to remember, this was an American car built at a time when most domestic automakers weren't prioritizing handling. But the GT Hawk did. It wasn't a brute force car, it was a driver's car. Of course, we can't talk about the GT Hawk without mentioning its competition. 1962 was a year filled with automotive legends. The Ford Thunderbird, the Pontiac Grand Prix, and the Buick Riviera were all vying for the attention of the same sophisticated buyer. But the Studebaker offered something those cars didn't: exclusivity. You didn't see GT Hawks on every street corner. If you owned one, you stood apart. And that exclusivity continues today. Collectors and enthusiasts recognize the Gran Turismo Hawk as one of the last great Studebakers, a car that represents both the pinnacle and the twilight of the brand's independent spirit. Production lasted only a few years, from 1962 to 1964, with small updates each year. By 1966, Studebaker was gone, but the GT Hawk remains a symbol of what could have been. Let's talk design philosophy for a second. Brooks Stevens once said his goal was to make the existing beautiful. That's exactly what he did here. With limited resources and a shoestring budget, he turned an aging platform into something timeless. There's a lesson there about creativity under pressure, about how great design doesn't require a blank check, just vision and taste. Now picture this as it's a sunny afternoon. You're behind the wheel of a 62 Gran Turismo Hawk. The V8 hums through the twin exhaust with a deep, confident note. The steering wheel feels thin, elegant in your hands. The road stretches ahead, endless. You roll the windows down, and that subtle breeze carries the scent of old leather and polished wood grain. The world slows down just a bit. That's what driving a GT Hawk feels like, a moment suspended between eras. What makes this car so fascinating isn't just its style or rarity, it's its story. Studebaker's struggle was the story of American innovation fighting against corporate consolidation. The GT Hawk was their way of saying, "We still matter." And for a brief, shining moment, they did. Even today, when you see one at a car show or cruising down a back road, it draws a crowd. People can't quite place it. Is it American? Is it European? It's both, and that's what makes it so captivating. Collectors who own these cars often talk about the reactions they get. Strangers asking questions. Enthusiasts marveling at the design details. Kids pointing at the unique profile. There's something deeply satisfying about owning a car that defies easy categorization. A car that stands as both art and engineering. And when you look closely at the craftsmanship, the chrome trim, the precision of the grille, the stance, you realize that Studebaker poured their heart into this machine. They knew it might be their last chance to make a mark, and they did. Today, a well-restored GT Hawk commands respect and rising value. Collectors know that it's not just another pretty face from the 60s, it's a car with soul. And in a world filled with mass-produced machines and digital distractions, that authenticity feels priceless. There's something poetic about the Gran Turismo Hawk. It's a car born from challenge, elevated by design, and remembered with love. It's not about speed records or production numbers. It's about presence. When you see one, you feel something. And in the end, that's what great cars do. They move us literally and emotionally. So whether you're a lifelong Studebaker fan or just discovering this hidden gem for the first time, the 1962 Gran Turismo Hawk deserves your attention. It's proof that greatness doesn't always come from size or success. Sometimes it comes from passion, creativity, and the refusal to give up. And that's why, more than 60 years later, the GT Hawk still turns heads, still captures hearts, and still whispers a story of American resilience and design brilliance. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below telling me what classic car you'd love to see next, and, of course, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, because here, we don't just talk about cars, we celebrate the legends that shaped our roads and our dreams. Until next time, keep those engines running and keep the passion alive.